What was it like going back into the studio after such a, a huge plateau jump of success with Dark Side?
I think well, I know it was difficult, and I think being wise after the event, if we could relive the whole period, what we should have done was probably worked live for another, done a year of, in a modern world, we'd have toured for much longer, done Dark Side as a show and developed it, instead of sort of more or less coming straight back into the studio. I think we spent an awful lot of time working on ideas that didn't lead anywhere, perhaps because we were a bit burnt out by Dark Side and its success and so on. And it took quite a while to get stuck into Wish You Were Here. And I think we would have benefited if we'd maybe just relaxed a bit and gone, no, let's, as I say, I'd love to have done more live work at the time, and hopefully we might have got round to filming Dark Side, which we never did. I think it was a shame, really, because there was a lot of new ideas coming up for how to do a live show, particularly with the film that we were using, and it would have been nice to have had a proper record of that.
Right, yeah. And then there were songs like Have a Cigar, which were, was that basically like a response to the whole sort of, hey, make us another one.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was probably pressure as well from the record company. I mean, in general, the record company behaved very well in that respect. We were allowed to very much get on and do what we wanted.
Was there any sort of strange reaction to that song, being like, well, what is this about exactly?
Not. I mean, the record company, I think, knew how to. There was not much point in. They weren't going to stop us doing it. So. And it was probably a little unfair. No, it wasn't entirely unfair. It was, but it was a bit like a number of other things. It was relevant to record executives of yesteryear by then. Most of the executives by then were beginning to be people who knew more about the sort of music they were selling. But that was almost a throwback to the pre-Dark Side.
And then, of course, so speaking of record labels, was there any sort of opposition to the rather long intro to the album, instrumentally?
No, I think, as I say, musically, I don't ever remember the record companies getting bothered by what was on the. Occasionally, there'd be someone who just didn't like the record, inevitably. But in general, they were sort of probably distracted by storm running interference in terms of coming up with very complex album sleeves that, particularly with Wish You Were Here, we wanted to shrink the whole thing in black plastic, so there was nothing on it at all. I mean, finally, the record company managed to persuade him to put a sticker on the front of it saying what it was, but Storm's original idea was that it was total absence, that it was just a black shrink wrap. And that took a while for them to get over.
And then in the studio, well, now that there's the immersion box sets, we get to hear the demos and different versions. There was a different version of Wish You Were Here with violin.
Yeah, I think that was the jewel in that particular crown. It was something that I assumed had been lost forever. I thought we'd recorded over it. And actually what was fantastic was that it did still exist. It was Stefan Grappelli, jazz violinist, who used to work with Django Reinhardt. And he was working with Yehudi Menuhin down in studio. I think we were in 3 and they were in 2. And they came up to sort of just, in the way one does in a recording studio, sort of wander in, pay your respects. And someone had the gumption to say, would he like to play on it? And he went, yeah, all right, why not? And went in, did this. I think, I can't imagine why we didn't use it at the time. It's lovely, I think. But I suspect we were already worrying about the fact that even that we'd got Roy Harper sort of singing on the record, and I think the sense was, no, this should be ours, not too many.
How did that happen, when you got another singer?
Because there was a complete disagreement about how it should be done, or Roger didn't want to do it, or David didn't want to do it, and I don't know, it seemed like a compromise, a suitable compromise. It was one of those things that if we'd been more grown up, we probably would have worked it out in a slightly better way. But, I mean, Roy did a great job.
Yeah. But there was no nothing done since with Roy.
No, no. I definitely was not the plan to use too many other people in our records.